This is New Patreon Series 70A. We're going to discuss the Jesus and James Ossuaries, which have been recently discovered. Are they the family tomb of Yeshua? Now, upper-class Jews of the first century Jerusalem placed a corpse in a tomb for about a year until the flesh fell away and only bones remained, and then they placed the bones into an ossuary. An ossuary was a limestone box that was used for containing the bones of the dead. The ossuary was then moved to a family tomb. In 1980, in the Talpiot area of Jerusalem, an ancient tomb, which is a cave in the ground, was discovered sealed under a building site. The tomb, known in scholarly circles as the Talpiot tomb, contained 10 ossuaries deposited there a year after death. Now, ossuary number 80, numbered 503, was inscribed with the words, Yeshua bar Yosef, Aramaic for Jesus, son of Joseph. Here you see the inscription. It's kind of faint, but we've filled it out for you to look at. The tomb in Talpiot, excavated in 1980 during salvage archaeology, originally contained 10 ossuaries, that is, bone boxes for secondary burial. One of the 10, one that was vanished or presumably stolen right after it had been cataloged, is of interest to us. This may be the tomb of Jesus' brother James. James is known as James Ossuary, although such claim is refuted by the professor who oversaw the archaeological work. Of the other 9, 6 were inscribed with names as follows, correctly translated in a new movie called The Lost Tomb of Jesus. Now here are the inscribed ossuaries. The 2007 film made about this claims that the Talpiot ossuaries, inscribed as follows, was the final resting place of Jesus of Nazareth and his family, proving that Jesus was not raised from the dead and Jesus was married and had children. Now, ossuary 503 says Yeshua bar Yosef, Aramaic for Jesus, son of Joseph. Ossuary 505 says Maria, written in Aramaic script for the Latin form of the Hebrew name Miriam, which means Mary. Ossuary 504 says Yosa, a diminutive of Joseph, mentioned in its Greek form Ioannes Joses, as the name of one of Jesus' brothers in the New Testament. Ossuary 501, Yehuda bar Yeshua, possibly Aramaic for Judah, son of Jesus. Ossuary 500, Mariamene a Mara. According to filmmakers, this is Greek for Mary, known as the Master, and the translation is correct, Mary, the female master. Historically, Mary Magdalene was considered to be the greatest of the apostles, but early legend says she died of old age in Ephesus, far from Jerusalem. See my Mary Magdalene series, starting at the reference I give here. A similar but not identical name, Miriamna, is found in the Acts of Philip. Francis Bovon, who's a professor of history of religion at Harvard University, says, based on his study of that work, I do not believe that Mariamna is a real name of Mary of Magdalene. Mariamna is, besides Maria or Miriam, a possible Greek equivalent attested by Josephus, Origen, and the Acts of Philip for the Semitic Miriam. Mattia, which is the Hebrew for Matthew, not claimed to be Matthew the evangelist, but possibly a husband of one of the women in the unmarked ossuary. So these are the inscribed ossuaries. Now we have to ask, is the missing 10th ossuary the James Ossuary? The Lost Tomb and Jesus Family documentaries further claim that the 10th ossuary, which went missing years ago, is the James Ossuary, purportedly to have originally contained the bones of James, the brother of Jesus. Here's a book called The Lost Tomb of Jesus, which you might want to see, or a movie called The Lost Tomb of Jesus. In the Jesus Family tomb, Simcha Yakubovici claims that James Ossuary would have been a part of this tomb but was removed by artifact dealers and thus discovered separately. The James Ossuary's authenticity has been called into question, and Oded Golan, one of the past owners, was charged with fraud in connection to the artifact, but exonerated on all counts of forgery. Ben Witherington III, who worked with Jakubovici on the Discovery Channel documentary about the James Ossuary, denies this connection on two grounds. He says the James Ossuary, according to the report of the antiquities dealer that Oded Golan got the ossuary from, said that the ossuary came from Silwan, not Talpiot, and had dirt in it that matched up with the soil in that particular spot in Jerusalem. Furthermore, Eusebius reports that the tomb marker for James' burial was close to where James was martyred, near the Temple Mount, indeed near the famous tombs in the Kidron Valley, such as the so-called tomb of Absalom, and Talpiot is nowhere near this location. And then we ask the question, was Mariamne the wife of Jesus? Analysis of mitochondrial DNA performed by Lakehead University on the remains found in the ossuary marked Jesus, son of Joseph, and the one marked Mariamne or Mary, who some claim to be Mary Magdalene, determined that the two occupants were not blood relations on their mother's side. If not, why were her bones in the claimed family tomb of Jesus? Based on these tests, the makers of the documentary suggested Jesus and Mariamne were probably married because otherwise they would not have been buried together in a family tomb. But the remains were not dated using radiocarbon to further sustain this supposition. Neither was any announced DNA testing done on the other ossuaries to see if any familial relation existed there. These are the other ossuaries we have pictured here on the right hand. Additionally, scholars argue that the DNA tests only proved that they did not have the same mother. Thus, they could easily have been father, daughter, cousins, half-brother, sister, or any number of possibilities that do not include a matrilineage line. My next presentation will examine the James Ossuary.